Hi, welcome to the MEG Voices Podcast, first ever episode where we interview people from the community impacting the community. Today we have somebody very special here with us, somebody that went to TSC College, now future Texas Tech student. She's an architecture genius and she's here with us today. Let's bring on Daniela Munoz.
Right. So my name is Daniela Munoz. I am a 22-year-old from Brownsville. I did grow up in Matamoros, so I have a little bit of both worlds, which is nice. I have been studying architecture. I just recently graduated with my associates, and I am excited to keep it going at Tech.
Great. Okay,
Yes.
so architecture is something like I'm not 100% familiar with, but I mean, it's very interesting.
Right.
I think of all the things that have been designed, that have been built. I think of this set, right? I think of just design, but also like the great things that are out there, like buildings, humongous buildings. That's what I
Right.
think of, right? So tell me a little bit about how like modern design impacts the community, how you see it, and how that affects you.
Right. So I really do believe that we live in a time where we're fortunate enough to have all these resources, right? So we have machinery, we have technology that can help us better the environment. It's just a matter of learning how to use that correctly and using it to our advantage, because I think now more than ever, since there's so much growth going on in the world, there's so much, especially in the valley. I mean, there's a ton of construction going on, and I think it's very important to preserve the environment we do have right now. So I think modern design has so many benefits to it that we could use to preserve that, to keep that going, even when we're growing so much.
So you talked a little bit about modern design. You talked about how you see yourself in that world, describing a little bit about architecture. And tell me about what you think it takes to get to that point.
Right. So there's definitely a lot of hard work. There's a lot of dedication. There's a lot of hours that go into it. The amount of hours and late nights that I've had to do, I can't even count. I think it's a good reminder that that's where the discipline comes in, as we had previously stated. There is a lot of hard work. There is a lot of hours. It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of thinking. And there's a lot of points where you think you're going to break. There's a lot of points where you're going to burn out. There's points where you're going to stress out. There's points where you're going to doubt yourself. And I know it goes for a lot of different fields within the AEC community, right? But I think with my experience within the architectural field, I can confidently say there's been times where I stress out, where I burn out, where I'm literally making my homework. And by making, I mean these 3D models that I have to turn in within the week, right? So I'm literally making them, I'm crying, I'm complaining about it, but I know at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. I know I'm kind of like a milestone of like helping the community, giving back to the community at some point, implementing that work ethic into the field and having those projects done. It's really rewarding. I've been able to see it or get a feel for it in the working field, with Linus Architects, which is really nice. And I think it's a good reminder that even though there is a lot of hard work that goes into it, it's very rewarding. It's very nice. I really do think my passion has only grown for it. Instead of, I know some people tend to, in some situation, it minimizes because you get thrown curveballs and you go through all these obstacles and you're doubting yourself and you don't know if you're genuinely good enough for it, right? So I think those are all things to take into consideration when pursuing such a rigorous field, right? A career. So I think that's what I would like to let people know who are planning to do architecture or anything within the AEC field. I'm sure engineering is just as rigorous in its own ways. So I think that's something people should consider.
Yeah, so you talk about this rigorous challenge, this task that you guys have to accomplish. I mean, it takes hard work, right? It takes discipline, it takes sacrifices. Tell us about those sacrifices.
Right. So I think I can speak for a lot of people when we say we have to kind of put aside our personal life to make time for what is important, right? For for the students, I guess it's for their classes, and then for the work field, it's, for your clients and whatnot. And within my time studying architecture, it hasn't only been sacrifices of mine. I think I could confidently say that my parents have had to do sacrifices of their own. I think they come from Matamoros, they come from absolutely nothing. And they've worked so hard to build such an easy life for me and to set me up for success. And I genuinely wouldn't want that to go in vain. You know, they've done everything right. They've done everything they could to give me those opportunities, to give me those experiences. And I think that's something I look back on and remember and kind of implement whatever they have taught me of hard work and whatnot into what I want to achieve, right? So I think those sacrifices are important to bring forward. Not only my sacrifices, not only the sacrifices my parents have done, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, there's been so many times where I've heard from other students where they're like having to do they're having to figure out their own things, you know, in order to pursue architecture or pursue what they want to do in life, you know. So I think that's what I would put out there for sacrifices.
Yeah, definitely something people can relate to. I think being from the valley, being so close to the border, and then again, some cities here in the valley just known to be the most poverty-stricken places here.
Right.
So coming from that, a lot of people can relate to the necessity of discipline and hard work and
Right.
sacrifices of our parents, right?
Yeah.
Like the parents that came before us, that placed the foundation for us to grow, and then now for architects to build, right? Like
Yeah.
so such a beautiful story and a lot to think about. And I think of your future, right? I think of the fact that you're going to be going to Texas Tech. A lot of that school that you have to do. Tell us about some of the specific things you got in mind at Texas Tech. What can we expect from you there?
Right. So I am super excited for this one class that I'm taking. I think I'm going to benefit a lot off of it. And I think it's called the code compliance within the architectural fields. It's actually an elective that I got to choose. So I am taking that class this semester, and I think it's going to teach me a lot of being in the field, but I think I could also implement a lot of what I've already learned in the field into that class. You know, I think my grades would really reflect on the fact that I have had that experience. I've had the privilege to work with architects and in real life scenarios where I have to learn about the code compliance and the guidelines and the setbacks and whatnot, and having to deal with all of those and still coming up with something within the field. I think it's something that could really reflect on my grades within that class. I'm excited to take it. So yeah, I'll get back to you in November.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good.
So
Is there anything else in November that we can expect or?
yes, we have a banquet going on
Okay,
with
cool.
MEG engineers. We have a banquet going on. I will be receiving a scholarship based on the AEC competition.
Awesome. Fantastic.
So that's something to look forward to in November. But
Another thing to cap off the career.
yes, to put it on your calendar.
So for the people that don't know, like, why are architects important to the valley, like to the growth of the valley?
Right. So with growth comes obviously more people moving in. We have more companies. We have a lot of people coming in from Austin, Houston.
Yeah.
And we have to find a way to match, I guess, the resources you can find in Houston and Austin and all those bigger cities. Here in the valley for the economical price that we're usually used to, right? Because right now everything's booming. Things are getting expensive because of the growth.
Yeah.
So with architects as well as with engineers and contractors, we find a way to come together to an agreement.
Yeah.
To get those prices and to get those design purposes. You know, you're designing with purpose. You're designing to fit the environment around you, but also the needs that are required with growth. So I guess right? But it's very well known that architects play a huge part in that. And I think it's important for people to take that into consideration.
Yeah, so not just like the fancy aesthetic, but the cost of the fancy
the
aesthetic.
cost, the needs, because obviously with design, you have to take into consideration what a person is used to doing or what they dedicate themselves to, because the design has to be based on the client, right? So, and I think within architecture, you learn a lot of that within the field, and you learn that at school, right? So it's just a matter of taking that.
You're a recent graduate. You're planning to continue your education.
Right.
Are you currently or actively practicing architecture?
Right. Yes, I am. So I've had the privilege to work with a local architect. His name is Sergio Lainez. The way it all kind of came down was for students, they usually have expositions of their projects.
Okay.
And we have architects come in, we have engineers come in, and they
Yeah.
critique our work. This happened around April 2025 when I had this exposition going on. He happened to be a part of it. He liked what I had to offer, reached out. He was like, hey, I'm planning on doing some summer internships. You should totally apply.
Yeah.
And I've been working for him ever since.
Awesome.
But
Okay,
yes.
great. So yeah, so currently practicing that. And I mean, that's awesome. I think there's so much more for us to learn about you, Daniela. I think there's a lot of accomplishments that you made. First of all, you're here on MEG Voices, and it's for a reason, right? The reason you're here is, well, one of the main things that I can think of is your AEC Day competition. You won the
Right.
public speaking competition. So tell us about that. Tell us about how that feels, or what has.
Yeah, of course. So I've always taken interest in, I guess, public events.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to get yourself out there, to get
Yeah.
experiences and whatnot. And as for the event itself, I was very intrigued. It was first brought up to me by Mr. Sergio Lainez, as I had mentioned him previously. I thought it was really nice
Yeah.
that he thought I would be a great fit for this competition. And
Yeah.
as for the day itself, I was just so beyond grateful to even be a part of that competition.
Yeah.
And I guess for the winning aspect of it, I kind of saw it as a milestone,
Yeah.
right? Because within the field and within the career, and both in school or outside of school, there comes stress and there comes
Yeah.
doubt and there comes endless things. And I'm sure many people can relate to that. So this was kind of seen as a way for me to remind myself that I can really achieve whatever I set myself up for. So it was just kind of like a reminder that hard work pays off, that dedication pays off, the discipline pays off.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take on that entire day. It was really fun. I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I feel like you're kind of downplaying the fact that you won, right? You did
Yes.
win.
Yes, I
So,
did.
so how does MEG come into a student's life? How do they impact you? And then
Right.
how do you find your way winning a competition like this? Like what?
So I think it's safe to say this is a great opportunity for students. The
Yeah.
fact that MEG takes into consideration the student life
Yeah.
within the AEC community is great. I think it's a great opportunity for many students. I am beyond grateful again to have been a part of it.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes it can be hard to get at that exposure in the field, right? So get exposure with those professionals. And I think the fact that they're willing to put students on a pedestal and have them give out whatever they have to give
Yeah.
is beyond admiring, just because there's not a lot of firms doing that nowadays,
Right.
and especially with the market being so competitive, like no one wants to hire people that don't have experience, right? But how can you get that experience if no one's willing to give those opportunities to students? So I think it's a way to kind of change or shift perspective for everyone else around us. That this is a great opportunity for students and for firms as well. Like you get to learn about student talent. We get to learn from professionals, get that feedback and whatnot. So I think that's something that I really admire.
What would you tell other people in the community, like other students or other people that are aspiring to do great things, right? Like, what would you tell them it takes? What does it require? Like, is there a certain kind of motivation that it takes, or is there something that you had to have?
Right. So motivation definitely does play a part in it. I think remembering the hard work that comes with the reward of it all is
Yeah.
very important to take into consideration, the dedication and whatnot. I think my motivation is fueled by those, like those hard nights,
Yeah.
those long nights and whatnot, like the dedication, as well as not only the sacrifices that I have had to do, but it goes for the sacrifices my parents have done as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of students can relate to that our parents really try their best to give us a better life and to
Right.
set us up for success. And I think that's something I really admire from my parents. It's something I definitely do not want to take for granted.
Right.
So whenever I am putting myself in the position where it's going to be hard, because this is a very rigorous field, and I think that goes for any field within the AEC community. So I think reminding yourself where you came from and the sacrifices behind everything is really what fuels that, because
Right.
there's so much to consider. in that sense, and the sacrifices that our parents had to make. I think without them knowing, they've quickly become my main source of motivation, right? Because it's something I really admire, their hard work and their resilience, and the way they're so attentive to what I'm doing, to the way they're handling their situations. So for sure, that is what I think would be something I would recommend for students to take into consideration, when it comes to motivation. But I also wouldn't want to sit here and tell you that motivation is what fuels everything, right? Because with motivation, it's kind of like it comes and goes, right? I cannot sit here and tell you I am motivated every day. I am not motivated every second of the day. And I think that's where the discipline kind of takes over. That's kind of where that comes in. So between motivation and discipline, I would not completely tell you to rely on motivation, right?
Right, you need discipline, right?
You 100%.
Yeah, and I think another word you said was resilience. You said resilience, you said discipline. It's words like that that make me think of, something special that we have right now, right? Like we have something here that showcases a little bit of Daniela's resilience, right? And her discipline and her strength. I mean, you got to fight the fight, right? Like, so I guess
100%.
I guess that's what it tells me. And maybe you could tell me a little bit about more about this fight that you got in you, right?
Right.
So,
okay.
What is this? I don't know what it is.
So I think I genuinely do owe a lot of the discipline I have now to Taekwondo. So I did Taekwondo for 11 years. I started off when I was 5.
Taekwondo is what? What is that?
So it's a Korean form of martial arts, right? So some people tend to confuse it for karate or jiu-jitsu. There's a difference between all of them. I can't tell you entirely what jiu-jitsu is. I know it's Brazilian. Karate is more Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But Taekwondo does originate from Korea. And I did do it for 11 years. I started off when I was 5. I started off in Matamoros, Tamaulipas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did it for a while. I think I started doing it professionally around 8 or 9 years old. So it's been a minute for sure. A lot of the discipline did come from what I had to learn at such a young age. The dedication to it all, going to the practices, and with Taekwondo, once you become an athlete, there's a lot of cutting weight and there's a lot of tournaments and a lot of hard work that goes behind the scenes that people don't see until the day of the competition. It's just kind of like putting out there like what you have worked so hard for. So I think I really do owe a lot of my discipline or a lot of my habits more than anything to Taekwondo, I think it's a great way to, not only with Taekwondo, right, but it goes for many sports. Many sports require a lot of discipline.
Right.
I think it sets you in the right direction, and then you can later apply it to whatever you do on the field.
Yeah, I think that in general, right? Like whenever you have that sports-minded mentality, you know what it takes, again, to fight the fight, to give that competitive edge to yourself. I mean, you got to be in the, whatever it is, the ring, the field,
right? Yeah.
Whatever it is, and you got to give it your all. So, I mean, that says so much about you. I think that's really, really exciting. And I think we have go ahead.
No, so sorry. And I think that's where I also realized motivation isn't something I should be relying on 24/7, because when it came to cutting weight, I didn't want to be eating tuna and cucumber like every day, but I just had to. And, and you kind of learn to discipline yourself, be like, okay, well, this is for the better of, the outcome, right? So I think that's where I started to learn motivation is only a factor, and discipline is what ends up kind of putting you out there. But yes.
Awesome. Well, clearly you're doing the right things. I mean, we got belts, we got awards that you're receiving. So keep it up. Keep up the great work. I think there's also a little proof here of those medals that she's won, right? So these are some of those here that you can tell us about. You have, I've heard you have several awards, things that you're winning, things that you're doing.
Yes.
So tell us about those accomplishments. How do those impact you? Do you need them? Do they help you?
Right. So they're a good source of motivation just to kind of go back to that. The hard work does pay off. We actually have an entire room in my house where it's full of medals, full of trophies. These are only a handful. I think the ones that you were just holding were from the national tournaments that we've had. We have the US Open, we have the Canada Open, we have all of those good things. But yes, and then you had a follow-up question, right? Regarding that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
It's really, my question is, Do you need them? Is that something that helps you to be able to receive these awards?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you could elaborate a little bit more, I'm not 100% sure where you're going with this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I do see this as motivation. I do every once in a while go into that room and be like, okay, I worked hard for these the same way I could work hard to get to where I want to be in the field or where I want to be in my career, right? So I think that's kind of how I view these medals, how I view these accomplishments.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't know
It's
if I
good to have
answered.
something to chase there at the end, right? Like you're
Yes.
chasing this big thing, and clearly, like you have the evidence, right, of the things that you've done. I mean, how many people out there have yet to see you fight, but they can see the medals you've won. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I wish we could give them a glimpse,
I
right?
know.
But it's call somebody in for a quick taekwondo session. But we also have more to learn about you, right? It's
Right.
not just a fight. It's not just a student, but there's an artistic part of you, right?
Right, yes.
There's that creative part of you. I think that's something that we want to talk a little bit more about.
Of course.
Because I have here some other piece, and you could tell
It's a
us
little wonky.
tell us about this. What is
Right.
this?
So that is my painting palette. I think it's very important to, even when you have a lot on your plate, it's important to take care of yourself. It's important to make time for yourself. I find art and painting to be kind of one of those outlets, just to not stress about it. I never did it competitively. I never got into art classes because it wasn't something that I wanted to stress about. It was something I wanted to express myself with.
Yeah.
And I think I've been able to, I guess, implement those artistic skills of mine into architecture, because with architecture, it's an art within itself, right? So not only the artistic side of it, but you're adding logistics and you're adding structure and you're adding everything. It's kind of everything in one, and I think that's the beauty of architecture, and that I'm able to implement what I learned with painting, what I learned with coloring, and what I learned with drawing. And it goes for not even just painting. I think there's an art within building Legos as well. I know we were talking about Legos earlier.
Yeah.
I was a Lego kid, and I think that kind of fast forwarded or just kind of implemented that I was gonna end up going into the architectural field.
Wow,
It was
yeah.
a little bit of everything. So yeah, I do like painting. I think it is important to kind of have that outlet, just to keep your sanity and to keep yourself from stressing and whatnot. So that's something I also really recommend.
Awesome, yeah.
But
So for all the Lego parents, if you stepped on the Lego, you might have a future architect.
Yes.
That's good. So honestly, the painting aspect, and you're really telling me that all the logistics and the way your mind works, all those things actually go into painting. Is there a possible way we could show the paintings? Do we have some of those paintings that we can maybe show on the screen?
Right. I didn't bring any paintings with me. They're a little bit big, but
Okay.
I know downtown. I've had a couple. I guess, side gigs.
Yeah.
So downtown there was a thrift store owned by a couple friends of mine. They actually were like, hey, like, would you like to paint a wall? And I was like, well, I had never painted on a wall before.
Yeah.
So there's a wall out there with my name on it.
Yeah.
As well as in a daycare, Atomic Kids Learning Center.
Wow.
Off of Paredes, there's a 6 by 7 foot huge canvas. They had reached out and they were like, hey, we want to put something on this wall. Could you do something about it? And I was like, sure, like, just give me a rundown of what we want, what not. And it was very kids based. They were just like, okay, we want to make it look like a kid drew it, right? We want to make it look like a kid drew it, make it a little artistic. So there's a painting out there too, in case you guys want to go see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess if they did want to get a look on that,
We have that. We have that to show.
Yes.
I mean, I'm very impressed, Daniela. I think there's so much to learn about you. There's so much that we've learned already today. MEG Voices is having special guests just like yourself. I'm really glad to have you on, and I'm excited for everybody that's watching. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, we're just gonna go ahead and ask Daniela one last time, maybe her take on architecture. Tell me one more time what you feel like the future of architecture has for you and for the community.
Right.
And we can kind of end it there.
So I think the possibilities are endless. You can do so much with architecture, not only building houses, but you can build communities and you can build, I guess, work environments. You can build, I guess, different A lot of different things. My mind is going blank because I genuinely cannot pick a topic of like how many different things you can do about it. I think it's a really great way to express yourself, not only artistically, but it's a great learning career as well, because I feel like, I know I'm still considered young. I hope I am considered young, but I still feel like I have so much to learn, and those senior architects that I do have conversations with, they tell me the same thing, and I think that's so cool that you never stop learning. The same way I learn from other architects, I learn about like everything and everyone in the AEC community. I learn from engineers, I learn from contractors, and I think it's very important to take into consideration that they all go hand in hand, because if it wasn't for engineers, I wouldn't know certain things that I do know now. And then if it wasn't for the architects that I've had conversations with, or the contractors that I've had a conversation with, I think everything is very important within the AEC community. So I think when it comes to architecture specifically, I think it's a great way to combine all of those elements and bring something to life, and bring it creatively and artistically, and with it still being working. So I think that's how I would view architecture.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what you do next.
I can't wait either. I'm excited.
Super excited. And thank you so much for being on MEG Voices.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.